Hello, and welcome to this late night discussion about Mars and Pisces. So, okay, yay, I can see that the sound is working. That's good. Let me make sure the chat box is working. Oh, hello. All right. So, okay, it's almost 10:30 p.m. now. I think this is perfect time to talk about Mars and Pisces. So, I have some notes here. We're going to start off by talking about what Pisces represents. So, before we were born, there is a whole world. The sky is blue, the ocean is blue, there's trees and plants, and this whole creation that we ourselves did not create. And then once we're born and we get these beautiful physical bodies and our own individual awareness, now there is a whole world that we ourselves are creating. And this has to do with our ego identity, that sense of I. There's a that sense of a separate self. So in Ayurveda, ahamkara is the word given for an ego. This ego identity is the I maker, which gives us a sense of things that we identify with. Oh, I'm a teacher, I am a mother, I am an astrologer, I'm an herbalist, I'm a massage therapist. Suddenly, I have these identities through which I view the world and experience my reality. So, ahamkara, the eye maker, gives us this way to evolve our soul. So, therefore, the ego becomes like a vehicle for evolution. In astrology, the ego can be experienced a lot through the sun. There's that solar goals and aspirations. Hey, Jason. Oh my God, I love you, actually. Okay. All right, let me focus. So good to see you. I almost want to just get off here and get on a private chat with you. Okay. So then that ego identification a lot comes from the sun. And then Mars. Okay. So the way this looks in my reality is that Mars is the fighting hand for the sun, meaning that with the sun, we get this sense of self. And then Mars is the part of us that's going to go fight for keeping that identity structure alive. And I often talk about Mars as going out and protecting women and children, doing the work of going to get what Venus wants. So Mars is like that hand to go get the thing that Venus wants, to stand up and fight for the protection of women and children. And then also, Mars is going to stand up and defend the ego identity sense of self. So when we put Mars in Pisces, okay, so I started off by talking about this little creation theory that we sort of don't understand fully the mystery of what was here before I was born. I like this meditating on this question of what was my face like, or I had a face. Who was I before I became who I am? There's really no answer for that. And this is where we get into those Piscean mysteries. It's like the creation that was there before you started to have a hand in creation of your reality. And this will also continue on once you are not here. So, great mystery, and Pisces is the archetype that most attuned with that great mystery. So now, Mars being this fighter for the ego identity, the one that goes and gets what Venus wants, the one that stands up for and defends this sense of self. Now, in Pisces, Pisces being the great mystery, the whole sea of consciousness. So Mars I get tired of hearing the same things over and over, and I do repeat the same things that I've been hearing over and over for years. Neptune being illusions and delusions, and Mars being the warrior. And that is true, but there's more nuances to it. So when I was born with Mars in Pisces, so it's amusing, not amusing like an amuse, but something that I am musing over. Pisces is an as an archetype is an empath, a healer. It is super connected to the whole sea of consciousness, very dreamy and very whimsical. And that isn't much of a fighter, you know what I mean? So Mars is gonna be how we stand up and take action. Then when you put it in Pisces, it has this you can see how I'm like, "Oh, Mars and Pisces," and, like, my eyes just kinda going everywhere. It is very dreamy, and it doesn't have much direction. It doesn't have, like, "All right, let's go and do this." It's very in the moment, and as the moments are unfolding, Mars, the actional part of us that wants to stand up and defend, responds to the moment. Okay, so now bring in the fact that Mars, the planetary force of will and action, defend women and children, going out what Venus wants, meaning that defending our values, defending love, beauty, and all that is good. You put that in Pisces, okay, so now there's like this poetic way of going and getting what we want. There's a poetic way which can also be called passive aggressive. I have been that many times actually, and it's something that I'm personally working on as, working with my Mars and Pisces archetype is like, how can I be assertive and do the thing and go get it without being, passively assertive? All right. And then the planetary force of universal love and compassion. So with Neptune, there is a difference between personal love. I talked about this yesterday. That was somewhere else. So I didn't talk about this on this channel. But Venus is love. And it is that kind of love that is personal. So Venus has to do with romantic love, one to one, meaning it's that kind of love that deals with sensuality, like who we are sharing our physical pleasure with. I call it a sense-based relation. So Venus being in charge or like being the planetary force of personal love, Neptune is the planetary force of universal love, non-personal or what is transpersonal love. So Mars joining up with Neptune has this sense of what we would fight for, meeting up with universal love and compassion. It's almost like revolutionary changes to our spirituality. Something that I read, was it this book? Green's book on Neptune. It's called something, The Quest for Redemption, Liz Green's book. It's called Neptune, The Quest for Redemption. This book is my Neptune Bible, and I absolutely love this book. I mean, really breaks down like the difference between the way Neptune shows in different signs. Back of this book, I own here and want to read the back of the book because he talks about this era that we're in with Neptune and Pisces, as he calls it, the end time. The end time. So Neptune being that transpersonal love, which has to do with universal love and compassion, oneness. And this all sounds very beautiful and lovely. And it's also not. It's also not, because we're talking about like the dissolution of our sense of self, the dissolution of our sense of an ego identity. Everything that we've ever known to be true dissolves with Neptune and Pisces. That's not fun, you know? That is very okay. So the last time Neptune was in Pisces was the California gold rush. And there's also like this sense of like really big, was it also something that has to do with oil also is connected with Neptune in Pisces. So there's like this great richness, and also what happens with that? Like we become very, like our ego identity gets really tied up in the belief about like what even happens with our spirituality once we get super tied up in gold and oil and money. So with Mars coming up, that this is happened today, and we're going to be really feeling this Mars and Neptune conjunction all the way through the end of the week. So I really don't know what to expect. I've been looking for signs of like what Mars and Neptune might look like in news and in things that are happening that I'm seeing in during this week. What I kind of feel like it show us is where we have traded our, so this word spiritual bankruptcy comes up, where we out that what we believed in is a disillusionment. And once we realize, in whatever way we may we have been disillusioned, that there is a sense of revitalizing our unique connection to source, and then Mars touching it. And I honestly, what I've been noticing a lot as all planets have been coming up to Neptune. So we had Jupiter Neptune conjunction, we had Venus Neptune conjunction. Now we're having Mars making that same conjunction with Neptune. I really feel like all these inner planets meeting up with Neptune is just overemphasizing Neptune in general. So where what is the planets that are within the boundary of Saturn are most related to our internal archetype. So when we speak about ego, the planets that are within Saturn's rings really describe our sense of self. So Saturn being the sense of authority, Jupiter being our inner guru, our sense of spirituality and wanting to have higher education, Venus, our sense of personal romantic love and what we value. Then we have Mercury, and this is like our perception, our thinking capacity, our CPU. And remember that Mercury is the part of us that's able to go up into the upper realms, or what we call the heavens or the celestial world, and also can go into what is known as the hell realm or the underworld. So Mercury is that part of us that can traverse all three realms. So the upper, the middle world being this reality that we share with each other, and then the underworld. So Mercury is that part of us. Our I lovingly call it the CPU, but it really is much more than that. Then the moon, which is our ancestors, our mother, the wombs that we come from, our emotional identity. And then we have the sun, which is our, what we show everybody, the way that we shine in the world, goals and aspirations. I like that for the sun. Okay, so once we get beyond Saturn's ring, these planets are not necessarily integrated into everybody's sense of self. You know, there are people, and you know them, you probably work with them, you have been one of them at some point, who don't think, or they don't have an awareness beyond the authority of Saturn. Have a connection to their, if you're here, if you are anywhere in my reality bubble, you are probably not one of those people. So somebody like you who has an awareness of Saturn's ring. Beyond Saturn, the first planet is Uranus, the planet of radical individuality, and this part of us that genuinely wants revolution for all of humanity, that wants liberation and freedom for all of humanity, not just for ourselves. Then we get to Neptune, which has to do with universal love and compassion. Life starts with water. Water is that primordial fluid of our emotional currency and of regeneration and fertility. Neptune is known as, I don't know if you would call it like the god or the lord of the sea, but the mythology of Neptune starts in water and is related with our dream. So you think about what is a dream? Where is your dream? What does your dream come from? And the way I experience dreams is like this bubbling up of consciousness from that where do our dreams arise from? Like, of course, I've read all these books about dreams and saying that it's what our mind has taken in but couldn't process all during the course of the day. Okay, maybe. And also, I like it is the collective consciousness that we are constantly connected to, that whenever that front part of our mind is able to turn down or turn off when we go to sleep, that constant stream of consciousness that's running through us is able to fully blossom and bubble up to awareness, and that we are experiencing more of the collective consciousness through our own sense of awareness. So that's Neptune. And Robert Moss is one of the dream teachers who I have studied with. He has a new book out, and I was reading a portion of that, like an excerpt of that book, and he had this quote that said something about people who are living their dream or living their life as if their dreams are real. And he was making this different, what do you say? Like separating where some people don't have any access to their dream whatsoever because they have been told that their dreams are just the garbage. I forget how this one lady told me is like the waste bin of daily consciousness of awareness. So if you have that as your idea of like that dreams are so meaningless and that you're living your life with no connection to your dream, let alone there was dreaming you up, what like, okay, I create things. So when I and create something, I get into this meditative state and I'm like grabbing from all these different elements of what you can imagine, like opening up a tool case and seeing all these tools. Oh, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of amethyst, a little bit of roses. You're just like putting all these things together, and then suddenly you create something. And as the creator, there is some vibe or some feeling that I was wanting to express through my creation. And like that, when you were created, there was a certain planetary alignment, had some feeling or some vibe that was wanting to be expressed, and that you are creator's creation. What was creator wanting to say with the creation of you? Okay, so some people don't have any connection to this. They don't have a connection to their own dreams or universal dreams or a universal consciousness. So, what kind of life? Okay, anyway, so back to this planet of Mars coming up to Neptune. It is bringing this sort of like assertive aggressiveness, this willingness to stand up for these whimsical nonsensical, is that a word? Great art can be born under a Mars Neptune conjunction. And in the sign of Pisces, not only great art, but visionary art. Because Mars, being our sense of direction and will, now we see ourselves as the creator of something, of whatever it is that you might be the creator of, being able to open up our own tool closet and see all these different aspects of what we want to create. And what this is really feeling like is bringing us back to the fact that Jupiter and Neptune will never again be in the same sign in our lifetime. Jupiter and Neptune will never be in Pisces again. Lifetime, not the same sign, but in Pisces. And we just, I've got chills everywhere. I have this altar that I've made for that particular transit because I really feel like Jupiter and Neptune together give us this really great opportunity to expand our vision, expand what we're able to dream and reach for. And as you know, Jupiter moved on, is in Aries now. It'll reach all the way up Aries, but it's going to retrograde and come back. And it will re-enter Pisces again, I believe, in October. So the energy of Jupiter Neptune will be with us throughout the whole year. Now, I'm mentioning that because right after we had that conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune, shortly after that, Venus went ahead and conjuncted with Neptune, made a conjunction. I believe that was on the 27th of April. And then moved on. But now we're having Mars right now on the 17th of May. Also tomorrow, something really amazing is happening tomorrow. So tomorrow, Neptune moves to the next. Neptune moves very slow. First of all, Neptune moves extremely slow and is going to be moving to the next degree, which is 25 degrees of Pisces. And Mars is following very close and will also reach 25 degrees of Pisces on the 18th. And then those 2 planets will be within 2 or 3 degrees of each other all the way through this weekend. So, I feel like Venus is way more, non-actional. So when Venus made that conjunction with Neptune shortly after Jupiter did, there's more of a sense of our sense of what we would allow ourselves to experience. Venus is our what we value, what we believe ourselves to be. Like if I believe that I'm worth this great big vision that I have for my life, there is a much greater chance that I will be attracting in every single so setting, especially because Venus has a lot to do with our social engagements, that I will be attracting situations, people who are also in alignment with my higher vision of what I value and what I believe myself to be worth. So now we bring Mars. Mars comes up to Neptune and has this ability to stand up and take action. Venus as like this great attractor that is attracting to us what we believe we're worth and what we want and value. And then Mars is like, okay, I know what Venus wants. I'm going to go get that thing. That's more of on a personal note, and definitely check where 25 degrees of Pisces is on your chart, because this is going to be way more specific to you personally, like what planets are there, what planets are making, like the alignments between other things. You may have a square to some planet. Like these are all the alignments between other planets are going to be telling you how the sky is engaging with your inner archetypes, with your inner architecture. And then the house, the area of life that this is most taking shape for you. All right, I think that was it. I think that's all I got to say. Pisces, what is created before we were here? What continues? Integration of ego. Oh, one more thing. Integration of ego. So we talked about the ego as the ahamkara, which is our sense of self. Okay, so the integration of our ego with that bigger sense of self, which is not a sense of self at all. It really is like when we stop identifying with who we're with what kind of work that we do in the world. So I'm no longer a teacher. I'm no longer a massage therapist. I'm no longer an herbalist or however this goes. A lot of us did lose jobs. A lot of us did lose those identifiers during 2020 and 2021. So as we soften our grip on reality, soften our grip on reality is what the mutable cross in astrology is for. The mutable cross means those 4 planets that are mutable planets. I call them the dissolution planets. That is Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Those 4, they're all in opposition with each other, create the mutable cross. Through those seasons, those are the seasons that are in between the equinox and solstices. Through those signs on your chart and in your life, and when we get to those seasons, this is where we have an integration of who I believe myself to be in relation to the larger context of what's actually happening. What was created before you were here and what will continue living on once you are gone? That is the great mystery. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining. Um, yeah, I'll talk to you soon, maybe sooner than later.